And let me let people in. All right, let's get started.
Hello, everybody. I'm Shilpa. I'm the owner and founder of Kosa Ayurvedic Spa here in Madison, Wisconsin. We're so happy to be partnering with Pure Indian and excited to share our recipes. Just a word about Kosa. We're one of the first Ayurvedic spas in the country. And that means that we invite people to come and enjoy Ayurvedic treatments, our steam and sauna, our sanctuary retreat area, and our kitchen, which was co-founded by my mother, Lalita. And people can come here for the day. We have 7 treatment rooms. You can have abhyanga, Ayurvedic facials, shirodhara. These are all different Ayurvedic treatments, but everything here is designed to be in harmony and synchronicity with the season, and to offer you a place to hear your own voice. And that's where self-healing comes from. And it's a very inviting place also because it feels like home. And our kitchen became an essential part of the spa because so much of Ayurveda has to do with basically the idea that we digest everything in our lives, whether it's environmental toxins, emotions, and especially food. And so much of my upbringing was influenced by my mother's food and her traditional recipes. I was born in India but grew up in Wisconsin. And so all of this brings me back to my roots. And these recipes are really important to me in that way, and they also bring us back to our health. So we're excited to share our drink recipe today. We'll tell you more about it in a minute, but I'll let Tanya introduce herself and talk a little bit about Ayurveda.
Hi, my name is Tanya. I'm an Ayurvedic health counselor and esthetician here at Kosa Spa. I also do the cooking here. It's really become a passion of mine, and I'm very grateful and excited to be able to have learned some of the family recipes shared by Lalita and add my own Ayurvedic touch on them. So just to share a little bit about Ayurveda, it is a 5,000-year-old sister science of yoga. It's akin to the ancient Indian form of medicine, although it is a lot different than how we here in the West view medicine, where everything is very symptom-based. Ayurveda is a subtle science, so it looks at things as minute as dry skin and constipation, and actually views these as precursors to disease. So one way that we can take matters into our own hands, as Shilpa had mentioned, is with our food, with our beverages, with the routines that we follow, with the way that we exercise, with the things that we surround ourselves with. So that's why we are bringing this recipe to you today. It's just one way that we can support ourselves in this subtle shift from summer into fall, as we need to shift more from focusing on cooling and calming and soothing herbs, essential oils, and ingredients to more grounding, warming, and demulcent herbs, essential oils, and ingredients. So we will get into some questions, I believe, before we get started here with our demo, as Ayurveda is a very vast science, so there's a lot to touch on. So I'm sure there might be some questions before we get started, so everyone can kind of have a common ground before we get started with the recipe.
And I thought maybe you could also cover the basic, the doshas, the gunas, and the elements before we jump in here.
So Ayurveda is comprised of 3 mind-body archetypes known as doshas. Dosha loosely translates from Sanskrit to fault. So basically, when we look at ourselves and we notice some of those minute symptoms within our body, we tend to look at the dosha that is causing them. And that is what is at fault for the symptoms that we're seeing. So the 3 doshas are known as Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. So they relate to our seasons outside. They relate to time of life. There's even segments during the day that are devoted to each dosha. The way that we can bring ourselves into balance is by understanding the qualities or gunas of these doshas and introducing the opposite quality to bring us to homeostasis. So that is pretty much the premise. You don't need to necessarily know all of this in one day, but just understanding that Ayurveda looks at things from a qualitative standpoint. So right now we are in Pitta season, which is summer. It's represented by the fire and water elements. So this time of year, in terms of skin, you may notice that your skin gets a little bit more red as you're going outside due to that fire element. It may become more sensitive to things that you hadn't noticed reactions to before. Our digestive system may tend to get a little bit more fiery this time of year, a little bit more reactive to certain foods. So that can look like some loose stool, indigestion, some acid reflux, or heartburn. In the mind, it can look like anger, irritability, being more critical of ourselves and others due to that raised fire element from Pitta. So the way that we would soothe that is by introducing some more cooling foods and herbs that are energetically cooling. So it's not necessarily about the temperature. It's more about the energetics of what we're consuming. So we focus on cooling, calming, and soothing to bring down that fire and to help dissipate that water element as well that's related to Pitta. We're moving into Vata season or fall. It extends from fall to about the midpoint of winter. So during this season, we need to focus on some differing herbs, essential oils, and ingredients. So Vata season is comprised of earth and air or ether. So it's very ungrounded. If you think about going into that time of year, you might notice the leaves on the ground are really bustling about. That's a way to think of Vata. It's really ungrounded. So this time of year, we may notice some more insomnia, a little bit more anxiety. We're lacking that grounding energy. So to make that subtle shift, we can still focus in our foods by having some Pitta vegetables, but maybe adding in a little bit more warming and carminative spices to help our digestive system focus more on that Vata to get rid of all that air and space in our digestive system.
So that's part of what we're going to talk about today with the drinks, but let's move on to my mother, Lalita. Maybe you can share what is the drink we're making, what was sort of the inspiration behind it, and what's the cultural context?
Sure. So I'm Lalita Sankaran and mother of this wonderful and amazing woman who runs this spa. So inspired and so proud of her that we have this lovely Ayurvedic home here in Madison. And of course, very proud to have Tanya on our team. She's the expert in, she's an Ayurvedic consultant and very well versed in Ayurvedic principles, the food. She's the most amazing cook. I think people sometimes just come here to eat her food.
That's a lot coming from my mom.
And she's going to put together this concoction today. And so it's really wonderful that we have this facility in Madison. But we are also very honored to be using pure Indians ingredients today. And Shilpa will talk more about them. And so we are pleased that we're able to make this presentation to you. What I wanted to talk about a little bit was the Sharbat that we'll be making today. It is in India, it's very hospitable to always offer people drinks and teas in the warmer weather. Obviously, all the nice cooling, soothing drinks, and in the cooler weather, the tea. You're always welcome for a cup of tea anywhere you go. You knock at the door and people offer you a drink. And Sharbat is typically a cooling drink, and it's usually with a sweetened base, but we can also add a lot of savory to it, again, depending on the season. I remember having rose water and rose petal Sharbat as a child in the hot weather. We used to have a really nice cool glass of pink a kind of drink syrup with the drinks, and so there are many variations of Sharbat. So if you ever hear Sharbat, it's a nice refreshing drink. Today what they're making is the bilba, which is I'm familiar with bilba as being a big leaf that we offer at temples. We offer to the gods different items, objects on a leaf as a gratitude for what we're there for. And but they're using bilba powder, which is, Tanya will explain a little more about it. And it says it's a ripe Bael fruit, and it has certain attributes and certain ingredients which are helpful in Ayurveda. So she'll describe more about that, but I hope you enjoy the demonstration. It's a beautiful drink. Do try it. It's got sweet, spicy, salty, all the different Ayurvedic tastes.
Which is something that people aren't always used to. It's like
Yes.
either you have a sweet drink or you have a
Yes.
sour drink. And
Yes.
in India, in food and in drinks, you're going to find that nice, I guess people call it umami.
Umami, yes.
So there's some of that going on. And something else I learned about bilva, which I didn't know before, in addition to being, I think the reason the leaves are the offerings is it's supposed to carry the essence of light in it. So you think about these energetic properties, and all the spices and ingredients go beyond just the meaning of the plant even, but there are energetic and herbal properties. And like my mom said, the reason we're using pure Indian is in our kitchen, we only use pure Indian everything, the ghee, the spices, whatever they sell, we will try and use it, not only because of the quality. So the turmeric, for example, is a potent bright orange. You know it's doing the medicinal job that it should be doing because of the quality. But everything we do here is out of respect and caring for our bodies and the earth and other people. And that is what Pure Indian does. So they source from small farmers, and we truly appreciate that. And we love that it carries through in the food that we serve. So I'm going to take a few questions and then we can go on with the demo. Let's just see if anybody had any. We don't have any yet. So you all can feel free to just go ahead and start typing those in, and then we'll probably get to those after the demo then. So bilva, the sharbat is essentially a simple syrup, is the base. And we're going to add some spices to it, and then we add water, and then we enhance it even further with different herbs. So for starters, what we've done is we've taken, we do about, oops, is this the wrong one? We do 1 cup water to
3/4 cup.
to 3/4 cup
We
water
get 3/4 cups of the sugar.
to 3/4 cup sugar.
Yeah.
Right, and we use the jaggery.
We used jaggery, or you can also use coconut sugar. We kind of used both. The consistency and color will vary depending on what sweetened medium you're going to be using, but both were delicious.
And can you talk a little bit about sugar in Ayurveda and the different kinds and why you would choose not to use, for example, white sugar or even cane sugar?
Sure. So Ayurvedically, the sweet taste is one of the tastes that help to pacify Pitta. So that's why we really wanted to make sure we were introducing that as well, due to the fact that some of the other ingredients we're using, for instance, salty, sour, those are energetically heating, which, think about the fire element of Pitta. If you're adding more heat to the fire, that's just going to increase, because Ayurvedically, like attracts like and opposites balance. So having that fire element already withstanding with Pitta season, we wanted to pacify it. That doesn't mean that everything in your beverage or in your meal needs to be cooling. It's just about having that balance. If you want to have a little bit more spice in your food, you can balance it off with a little touch of coconut sugar, some cilantro, a little squeeze of lime. It's really just about understanding, once again, the energetics and the qualities of what it is that you're using. So we decided to, we used both just to see which we preferred, but the jaggery did give it a little bit more of a thickness, and then we preferred using a blend, I believe, of the jaggery and the coconut sugar. It just has some more nutritional value than the white sugar that you'll find on the market. It's a little bit more of a slower sugar in the system, so it doesn't give you that blood sugar spike that white sugar does.
And if anybody has seen jaggery, I should have taken this out. It is completely different from what you've ever used, and just don't be afraid of using this instead of sugar really in anything, unless you're just like sprinkling it literally. But it's a big block. It's a big block, and you can chip it off really easily to the amount that you want. Do you know how it's made?
I think it's like palm sugar. It's not processed.
Yeah.
It's just hydrated.
So Ayurvedically, jaggery is used as an anapana or vehicle along with honey and ghee and some other mediums as well to deliver the medicinal properties of whatever herbs, ingredients, spices it is that you're using to deliver it where it needs to go in the body. So it's really just the vehicle that we're using to deliver the bilva where it needs to go.
Which I love the idea. So it's not just about like, well, we're going to have a sweet drink because we want a sweet, refreshing drink, but the sugar itself serves a really important purpose. So what we did was we dissolved the jaggery in the water. As we mentioned, 1 cup water, 3 cups, and you don't need to boil it down. This is simple syrup. You don't need to make it like maple syrup so that it's thick, but it's still, you know, evaporated a little so that it's thicker than it would have been if it was just, you know, dumped in there. And that was done over the stove top on medium heat. You don't want to burn it. You don't want to boil it too much, and you don't want to go too slow, of course.
For 1 to 2 minutes. You just bring it to a slow boil for just a minute or two, just like making a simple syrup.
Yeah. And then we're going to just demonstrate here. We add all the lovely spices. Oh yeah. So we're going to start with the bilva powder. And what we discovered was to do that, we wanted to dissolve that first because in the syrup, it wasn't really breaking up because it's a very, very, very fine powder. So like just by comparison, this is bilva, this is amchur, which is a mango syrup powder. But like the amchur is on this side, this is the bilva, and it's so fine. It compacts really well. It's beautiful. When we just taste it, you know, when you just taste it by itself, it's actually a little sour, a little bitter even, and then on the back end has its own little sweetness. So
basically you're trying to dissolve it to break up the lumps.
do you want to do that quickly?
And what was the proportion of water to the jaggery again?
1 cup water to 3/4 cups jaggery or coconut sugar.
And then for the bilva powder, we're using, we did 2 teaspoons of bilva. And this is how much water?
4 tablespoons.
4 tablespoons.
4 tablespoons of water.
So it's like mixing flour into a slurry. You want to get it smooth because it does tend to get a little lumpy.
And we originally didn't use as much bilva powder in the recipe because we've traditionally used bilva fruit. But we increased the amount because we wanted more of that sweet, that sour and bitter taste in this.
I think we got it dissolved pretty good. So we're going to add it to that simple syrup of jaggery or coconut sugar and water.
I'm gonna use the back of the spoon to get it in there. So you can see like it actually has changed the color. It's a little cloudier. It has like this golden hue right now. We're gonna send the recipe after class. Is there anything? Is there we'll send the recipe after class and then we will talk about Vata Pitta Kapha. Thank you, Amy. Jaggery. Everyone's answering each other, which is fun. Okay. So bilva powder. So far we have water, we have the sweetener, the jaggery, and we have the bilva powder, which is this bilva fruit. And then our recipe calls, we decided to add 3 other ingredients. I don't know, Mom, if you want to just pour while, why don't you talk and I'll pour?
Sure.
You can go over here where
Sure.
they can see you.
So we have chaat masala.
If you go there, then you can
Sure.
talk and I'll do it. Then.
Yeah.
You can say what this is.
Yeah, so this is chaat masala, and basically it's a combination of various spices, including Um,
Black salt, coriander, amchur, red chili, cumin, Himalayan pink salt, ajwain, and black pepper. So that was something that I had never had before. And it's become my new favorite. So I am putting it on everything. I'm putting it in everything I'm cooking
amazing
at
stuff.
home. I put it on some mango. It's delicious.
Can
It's
you
nice.
Can you
Yeah.
talk about what is chaat masala?
Yeah.
We'll hear.
So chaat masala is a combination of all those various spices. And if you delicately flavor any sweet fruit like mangoes or papaya or guava, and you just sprinkle it on top, it's amazing that pop it'll give you once you put the fruit in your mouth. That chaat masala just makes everything taste even. It enhances the sweetness. So do try that. It's very good in this sharbat and in many other sharbats too.
Well, I've just been putting like a pinch in my mocktails too.
Yeah.
So like I'll just muddle some herbs and mint, whatever, basil, and some lime.
Yeah.
Add lime juice and then water or something else, and then like a pinch of the chaat masala.
And I've actually, I have a secret. I sprinkle it on my eggs.
Yeah.
It just gives it a really nice pop. Again, it just gives that little pop. Try it with different things. Use your imagination, and you can use it for many, many things.
Sweet, sour, spicy.
Yes.
Yeah.
And the ajwain that's in there is actually a very good vata herb for digestion. It's a really good fermentative spice and seed to be using as we're heading into vata season.
Right.
Okay, you can talk about amchur. I'll put it in.
And the next thing is amchur, which is translated, it's mango powder. So they take the dried mango and then they dehydrate it and powder it. And it's got a really nice sour taste, but it's not sour as in lime juice or in some of the vinegar. It's got a very subtle sour taste. It's very wholesome and very bright. So do also add amchur to different things. Again, fruits, vegetables. In your cooking, throw in a little sprinkle of amchur and you'll be surprised when you give it a pop. You don't always have to add lemon or lime or vinegar. This gives it a very nice, subtle, sour flavor. Very, very nice.
And then the last thing we have is our pink salt.
Pink salt. So that's Himalayan salt.
Yeah. Can you talk about salt for a minute?
Salt is very important. It is heating. So there are many different salts and they all have some different properties to it. We don't use iodized salt. We find that it's better to get the iodine that our body needs from food sources. But we use mostly the pink Himalayan salt in our cooking, and we do use some black salt occasionally as well. It just helps with absorption to add a pinch of salt, even to your drinking water as we're heading into vata season, making sure that you're having room temperature or warm water. And then sometimes if you're noticing that you're still feeling a bit dehydrated, adding just a pinch of salt to your water can really help with absorption.
I love it. Somebody asked, what does chaat mean? And I didn't know this. Lick, taste, and delicacy.
I didn't know that.
Lick, taste, delicacy, chaat.
Chaat. Well, a chaat is something that they serve in India, and it's like, I call it my Indian nachos. And you can make, chaat with lots of potatoes and some crispy stuff and sweet and sour chutneys. So it's a delicacy. It's a savory, sweet thing. So yeah, I can see where it would be like a lick chat thing,
Yeah, and so this is the masala that they
It's
put
the masala
on
they put on chaat. Yes.
but it's used for so many things. Does adding salt to water make it an electrolyte drink?
It can, yes. A healthy version of an electrolyte drink. In fact, when my kids are sick, sometimes I will add a little bit of jaggery, salt, and lime and call it Gatorade. And they very much enjoy it, and it's a lot better for you. It just helps to with the electrolyte balance that may be lost while you're ill. So.
Well, because Gatorade is so much sugar. So in
Yes.
general, like in our steam and sauna, we serve a big pitcher of lime juice with lots of salt because it does help you after you've been dehydrated. It helps you rehydrate. It's an electrolyte. When I go on hikes, I put the salt and lime in my water bottle and drink that because I grew up with that.
We have a few questions about jaggery. Do you have the block there still?
Yeah.
Could you show the texture of that and how you would either grate it or like cut a piece off? Like, how would you deal with the jaggery? Can
Yeah,
you
it's
demonstrate that?
actually surprisingly crumbly. It looks like it's kind of hard.
Well,
But
and I've had
these-
different qualities.
These pieces kind of, at least this pure Indian one crumbles off pretty
It's a lot
easily.
softer
So you
than
just kind of,
Spoon.
no, I mean, you have to use like a little knife just to create a little wedge, but then it breaks right off. But there are some harder ones out there
yeah.
that can be really sticky.
And I've seen it darker than this. This
Mhm.
one's more caramel in color.
How do you store jaggery?
I put mine in the refrigerator because I find that if you're going to keep it for long periods of time, it's probably better so it doesn't get rancid. I store it in the refrigerator, and then when I'm using it, I leave it out at room temperature for like an hour before I use it. But if you're going to use it quickly, if you keep it around for like a week or two, it should be fine.
Like a cool, dark place away
Yeah.
from humidity.
And Tanya, can you say the recipe one more time you make for when your kids are sick?
Oh, I don't necessarily have a proportion on this. It depends on how much I'm making, but I add a bit of pink Himalayan salt, some jaggery and lime, and I tell them that it's Gatorade. So they seem to enjoy it, and I feel better about giving something like that to them when they're sick, just to help them get back to electrolytes and make sure that they're absorbing water.
So Tanya, the chat and amchur, is it okay if someone has high pitta and sour stomach?
Well, it would depend. Well, it's hard to answer a lot of these more specific questions without knowing more of the situation. I would say it's all about balance. So it would depend on what it is that you're eating and how often you're eating something like that. But I would say that in moderation, it can be okay as long as the day that you are going to be enjoying something that may be a little bit more sour and heating, that you're balancing out the rest of your day with some more pitta pacifying recipes, maybe adding in some fennel as well to something that you're going to add something like that to, perhaps some cardamom, maybe a touch of coconut sugar just to help balance some of that heat that can come from the sourness of the amchur. But I myself am pretty high pitta and prone to some pitta imbalances, and I enjoy it as much as I can because I've really grown to enjoy the taste of it.
I
So,
like it too, and then we actually did in one of our iterations put some fennel powder in it.
yes.
So it tasted very, very good. So I think you could, but then we'll show you the preparation so that you can see, actually, we did end up putting some cooling elements in here. So now you have basically your spiced simple syrup. This is the Sharbat, this is the base.
That's the base. That's the sharp.
And then
And I'm going to add these mint leaves in here.
That was our cooling element. We added some mint and lime as well. We muddled some mint to garnish. The muddling part is important when you are making something like this so that you can get those volatile oils of the mint kind of macerate within the beverage or whatever food it is that you're making so that you can really get the qualities that you're looking for.
And actually, I think this is not enough.
No, I think the way
Oh,
we
okay.
do it in India is we pour the syrup.
So you store the syrup as is. You
Yeah.
don't do anything
No, you
else.
store it as it is. You pour a little bit into a glass, and then you fill it up with water.
And you can add ice, but there's in Ayurveda, we don't really recommend ice.
Yeah.
So, but it's okay to chill, I think. A little.
And you end up with
You want a
this,
little cool.
Yeah.
it's a beautiful honey-colored drink.
So-
And this is something that Tanya prepared in all its glory with the, explain how you do.
Yeah, you can say what you did.
Sure. I just put a little bit of lime juice on a plate with some salt, and then I garnished the rim with a little bit of pink salt. And as Lalita did here, we poured in the concentrate first, and then added our muddled mint, and then we added the water, and there you go. Delicious.
Yeah. So cheers. I'm going to take a sip. Cheers. Hope you all enjoy. Delicious.
So questions. What is the best time in the day to have Sharbat?
Usually we have it like at tea time when it peaks, when the heat is the most, like between 2-3 o'clock. That's tea time in India, 2-3-4 o'clock. And so it's cooling and it, cools you down. So,
That's a nice point of the
Yeah,
science.
but honestly, you can have it even before a meal, so it gets your digestive juices
Or
flowing,
after,
or after.
typically not with. You normally
Yeah.
don't want to be consuming any beverages
Yeah.
with a meal because that will dampen your Agni or digestive fire metabolism, as we in the West tend to refer to it. But just to share a little bit about Bilva, it has been around for an extremely long time. There are mentions of it back to 800 BC in the ancient Ayurvedic texts. Depending on what part of the fruit or plant you're using, there's different medicinal properties and different energetics involved. For our purposes today, we do have the dried ripe fruit. So Bilva is one of the herbs that's in Dashmula, which is a vata rejuvenative. It means 10 roots in Sanskrit. So it's really grounding. It's really great for any of those apana vayu or the downward flow of vata imbalances. So Bilva itself is said to be great for things that involve the digestive system and any downward flow issues. So due to that fact, this is not something that you want to enjoy in excess. While it is extremely delicious, maybe 1 or 2 small glasses would be appropriate here and there. It's probably not something that you want to be consuming large portions of, especially if you have a delicate stomach. But the amounts that we're using here are pretty minimal. So please enjoy it. It's very delicious. All of the flavors are very interesting together.
Somebody just asked, what does it taste like? So maybe you should take a sip and then
Okay.
just say what you're tasting because
Sure.
I think it's not like anything you've had before. So that I'll just say that much
No.
because we're not used to this mix of flavors. Mom,
Yeah, I mean, what I taste is definitely that sweetness that a Sharbat offers, and that sort of gets your palate going. And then suddenly at the back end, you taste a little sour and salty, and then it gives a little zing. The chaat masala does have some pepper and some spices, and then it leaves that little residual taste, and it wants you craving for more. So
Our testing day, we had quite a bit of this. It's very, very good. So yeah, I mean, I think in the West, we are not accustomed to having this marriage of flavors. And that's something that I feel very excited and lucky about. Having worked here and studied Ayurveda is learning about all of these new flavors and the combinations and the herbal actions and putting things together. You get that caramely type flavor from the jaggery. And then there is that sour and salt, and then you do get a little bit of that cooling effect from the mint. It's really
yes,
good.
I think that mint really adds that last punch. You can just taste that beautiful, you get the beautiful aroma and the taste. And of course, Tanya did that little bit of lime juice, so a squeeze of lime juice is good too. So anything to enhance that flavor, you're welcome to add a few other herbs.
somebody asked, is the fresh Bilva available in the US?
I personally have never heard of it before, other than having used it in Dashmula for cleanses and Ayurvedic consult clients. I don't think so. As far as I know from the research that I've done prior to this, is that it's only indigenous to the Indian subcontinent. So I don't think the growing conditions here in the United States are appropriate for it. But you can get the dried version available in the United States.
I was actually curious, Courtney, why you all decided to even carry this because it is sort of an unusual thing.
Everything that we carry in our store is something that the Agarwal family personally uses. So normally it's because either Sandeep or Nalini really missed something from home, or maybe they had something on their last trip to India and decided, oh, we should bring this. So everything that is in our store is something that they're using and they want to share with our customers. And that's how it originated. That's how it started with the ghee. So all like the chaat masala that you're using, same thing. They're putting it on fruit, avocado, mango, wanted to share it with everybody else.
Nice.
Maybe they know where the bilva, if you get it in this country, if they import it like they do the mangoes, I'm not sure.
No, we don't think that there's any fresh fruit here. And then that's the same with our Alfonso mango. you can't get the fresh fruit here. It doesn't ship well even
Yeah.
on the transit time. So that's why we're bringing it as the mango as a puree, the bilva as a powder. It's the best way we can bring it, considering the distance.
We have, why use bilva powder in the sharbat? What's special about it?
Well, I think so far the other ingredients, while I don't know traditionally much about Sharbat other than what Lalita has shared with me, what I can say from an herbal standpoint is that because it is one of the herbs in Dashmula, which we use for Vata, we're nearing into Vata season, and just the herbal energetics of the other ingredients that we're using, it just really works very well to support any Vata imbalances that may occur in the digestive system. And then due to the fact that we are still at the tail end of Pitta is why we added in the lime and we made that sweet base, which I believe is traditional anyway for the Sharbat. And then we added the mint as well, just for that cooling effect so that it wouldn't be too heavy on the heating end.
And a little backstory on that, we are actually in the process of creating and launching soon an Ayurvedic line of beverages. And it will be very unusual like this, where you get those beautiful contrastive flavors that you wouldn't normally find with all the herbal properties. And we talked about Sharbat, like a whole, we have different herbal waters, we have some teas, and then we have Sharbat, like a whole line of Sharbat. And so as we were exploring different flavors, Pure Indian is one of our partners, and they said, guess what, we're carrying bilva. And so we said, well, that should be one of our, because it's a fruit, right? So a lot of the Sharbat will have a fruit base. And so it was really fun playing around with that.
And one other thing I have to say about why we use bilva. So bilva, yes, gives that little, bitter, pungent sort of taste. So that gives a good contrast to that sweet base. But also with the addition of the other spices, cumin and a number of coriander and all those are digestives. In India we always give a little tiny glass of aperitif right before a meal. It's like a little shot, and sometimes that gets the digestive juices going. But as Tanya will tell you, it also is an antioxidant. There are in here many spices that serve as antioxidants and anti-inflammatories. So there's many things going on here besides the bilva, but the bilva is the base and the jaggery is the base. And so everything else enhances all those properties.
Are you guys familiar with our Ayurvedic jaggery, the spice infused jaggery that we sell?
No, so somebody asked about that and I had seen it before. No, sounds
Okay.
good.
I'd love to try it.
They were wondering if they could use the Ayurvedic jaggery in this recipe. I could tell you what the spices are,
Sure.
but I don't know if they would go together with your flavor
The
profile.
flavor.
Right. And like the Ayurvedic purpose behind the drink. Because there's ginger, cinnamon, cardamom. It's really warming. There's the long pepper, nutmeg, mace, black pepper, and clove. So it's like a lot of Pitta.
Yeah. For anybody that would have any high Pitta or in like the peak of Pitta season, I would probably just recommend the regular jaggery or coconut sugar. But if you're someone that has some more kapha type issues, because I heard clove and long pepper
Mhm.
in that jaggery, that would be really good for drying out any excess mucus that can come along with kapha imbalances. And then just that warming carminative effect of some of those other spices is really great for Vata.
So it's a good like late winter perhaps.
Yeah, definitely.
Could it even put maybe a spoonful in your tea,
That sounds good.
right? Like it would just be yummy.
We had a customer say that they put our Ayurvedic jaggery in sweet potatoes, which sounded amazing.
Yeah, that sounds so
Because
good.
they already add cinnamon and nutmeg.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so
like
this would go
thanks.
with
Ayurvedic sweet potatoes
so
for
much better than
Thanksgiving.
brown
Try
sugar.
it.
Yeah.
Skip some marshmallows.
Yes, please.
We do that in Wisconsin. I don't know.
You should put together a recipe book with just some of these ingredients. Very versatile. 5 ingredients, lots of recipes.
Well, that's the drink
I don't see any other
demo.
questions.
Shilpa, are you familiar with our Ayurvedic jaggery? Yeah, so that's the question. Yeah, I think
Really good.
Yeah, it's so good. I want to drink more. We have a few more minutes if people have questions. Otherwise, really happy to. We'll share the recipe with Courtney for everybody else to try at home. You know where the ingredients are, and to kind of open up your palate and enjoy something new, and maybe start exploring Ayurveda for yourself. We also have some wonderful recipes on our website. I don't know, Courtney, if you have a chance, but it's under kosaspa.com
I'll go ahead.
and then under wisdom. And we have videos, self-care practices, and my mom's lovely recipes in there as well if you're getting curious about Ayurveda. We have a few more questions that just came up. Can't wait to make it. Do you have a website? Yes, thank you. Courtney's already set that up. So yes, well, this was a fun opportunity. Maybe we'll have some more recipes in the next several months, and we'll try and do something again.
Yeah, we'll do something with Pure Indian again.
Thank you guys so much for sharing this recipe and all of your Ayurvedic knowledge. It doesn't seem like we have any more questions, so I guess we'll close this out. But for everybody that is attending right now, we will be posting this both on Pure Indian Foods and on I guess you guys will post this too on your feed. Right, so we'll send out the recipe too, and thank you so much for hosting this.
Thank you,
you.
Courtney.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thanks to all the guests. Thank you. Bye-bye.
All right, bye.